playing basketball since I was 5, and there's obviously an evolution to the game and trying to get better and kind of staying ahead of the curve when it comes to elevating your game for each level of competition. And there was a point in high school where I had to really look at my form and see how I could improve so that I could be ready to play at that time on the varsity level in high school. Up until my freshman year in high school, I used to shoot kind of like a catapult, where I wasn't always the strongest kid. I was usually the shortest kid on my team. So in order for me to shoot from further out, I kind of had to sling it from basically below my waist and kind of just basically catapult it as hard as I could. I naturally had a pretty good touch, pretty good aim, a pretty good rhythm with it, but my release point was entirely too low for me to really be effective on that varsity level with taller defenders, taller guys trying to guard me. And so there came a time between my freshman and sophomore year where me and my dad kind of talked about, breaking down my form from the ground up so that I could really raise my release point to where it is right now, so that I didn't get my shot blocked on the varsity floor in high school. So, the change was tough. It was probably one of the most frustrating summers of my life, basketball-wise. It took thousands and thousands of reps to really change my form from that catapult shooting from here from my waist to bringing the ball above my head where I shoot now. But obviously, in the end, it was all worth it. So there was a time where I basically for 3 months in the summer, I couldn't leave the paint to really work on the mechanics of my shot, the rhythm of my shot, getting stronger so that I could repeat that form every single time. And you had to be patient. And so that's something that really helped me, become a better basketball player, a better shooter, and be ready for that next level of competition on the varsity level. There's so many different shots you can take on the court, whether it's catch and shoot, off the dribble, catching on the move. Everything is very similar when it comes to your form and your mechanics because it all starts from the ground up. So if your balance is straight and you're squared up to the rim as best you can, you're going to have a lot more consistency with your jump shot. So we always try to teach 10 toes to the rim. So no matter where you are on the court, no matter how you get into that shot, right before you're ready to release, you should have your 10 toes facing squared up to the rim. Naturally, for me, what feels comfortable is a slight twist to the left. So I'm not perfectly square to the basket. I usually have my feet about 10 to 15 degrees pointed to the left, but they're all pointing in the same direction. I don't have one foot going this way, one foot going that way. I try to stay as square as possible, 10 toes facing the same direction, but they're a little off center to the left. That's just what's natural for me and my body and my mechanics and my shot. And for you, finding what that balance is something that you need to get out on the floor and just, see what feels comfortable. But the consistent thing across the board with all great shooters is those 10 toes facing in the same direction. From there, your hips and your chest are going to follow that same pattern and be facing right at the basket where you want to shoot. All the greatest shooters are great at using their legs as the foundation for their shot. They don't shoot with their arms. They shoot with their legs first so they get that energy, that flow, and that motion and that power through their jump shot, and everything else is kind of a flow from there. So the best way to get into that position, obviously we talked about 10 toes to the rim, loading our hips, our backside, and getting into this good shooting position, this good, well-balanced athletic position is key. We don't want to have our knees bent in. We call that valgus. We don't want to have our knees bent in or out. We want to have everything squared, shoulders, toes, hips all in the same line. And we don't want to have our knees in front of our toes. Then we lose our balance. All right, we want to have our knees behind our toes, loaded into our hips, loaded into our glutes. And from there, you can basically be able in great athletic position to be able to rise out of your shot and really explode through your core. So that's where you get all of your motion. That's how you can shoot the same from whether it's in the paint all the way out into the deep three area all because of that core and that power that you get from loading your lower body in the right way. Another key to great balance is we call it finding your arch. And so any athletic position, to be able to have that balance and that strength through your feet, you basically take the arch of your foot and you plant that into the ground as best you can. We don't want to be able to roll out on the outside of our feet. One, you're going to create injuries, and two, you're just not going to have any balance and strength through your jump shot. So finding that arch is key. Planting it into the ground, allowing all of that energy and that strength come up through your lower body, and being able to get out of that position into a nice jump shot, a nice extended position from there. In this day and age, almost everybody has a cell phone or some way to video themselves on the court and video the mechanics of their shot. And that's one of the best ways to learn kind of what you're doing, to take yourself outside your body, video yourself shooting, and see where you can improve on your mechanics and the subtle details that might need a little bit of tweaking that you might not be able to feel, but you can be able to see. So videoing yourself shooting the basketball would be a great way to help you learn about your mechanics. Having one leg in front of the other will turn your chest and cause the ball to move side to side. If your knees bend in, you lose power and balance, and you can injure yourself. If you bend your knees outward, you'll sacrifice power, and you won't be in an athletic position to counter or beat your defender. If you point your feet away from the basket, you'll turn your chest and have trouble with accuracy. If your feet turn a little bit naturally, that's okay, but too far, and you're going to run into a lot of problems. If your knees are out in front of your toes, that means your hips are not loaded. And if your hips are not loaded, your shot's going to be all upper body, which will make it tough to add range to your mechanics. So the ball positioning in my hand is a huge key to becoming a more consistent shooter and creating that feel and touch that you need to get proper spin on the ball, and also have a great connection from your hand to the ball so that your release can be as high as you want and you still have control over it. So the first part is that you don't want the ball sitting in the palm of your hand. It's almost like a rock just sitting right there in the palm of your hand. What I try to teach is to have a little space in between my palm and the ball, with the ball sitting in the pads of my fingertips. That allows me to get the proper spin on the ball, the proper rotation, and I just have more touch and more control over it. From there, I try to teach where your hand positioning is on the ball, and try to create a straight line down the center of the ball so that you can have a proper release, so that the ball stays on line where your arm is targeted to the rim. The best way to do that, taking your dominant hand, whatever your shooting hand is, finding the air valve on the basketball, and taking your lead finger and putting it right on top of that air valve right here. From there, I know my hand's centered on the ball, and you can kind of get a sense of what that feels like. And take a couple practice shots, just staring at the rim, doing form shooting with your finger right on top of that valve. Obviously, in a game, things are going to be happening pretty fast. You're going to catch the ball in all different positionings, but you can always get back to that center position if you train yourself what that feels like. I ask people all the time, when you catch and you're ready to shoot, like, what do your eyes lock in on as a target? Some people just say simply the rim. Some people say the back of the rim. Some people say they look at the square and trying to line up the ball right in between the square. For me, what I feel is most comfortable, when I look at the rim, I look where the rim and the net meet. There are always these little hooks